Hey people, in this video I would like to show you 7 typical mistakes that you should avoid when it comes to foot technique so that you can improve on the drum set even quicker. This is the penultimate part of my basic series on foot technique. The next part is about typical mistakes on the double bass drum. In the description you will find the link to the whole playlist. This is basically a free online course that you can work through in order if you want. Such videos with the so and so many typical mistakes always sound like clickbait, of course, but they are actually super helpful. If you want to eat healthier, the quickest way is to omit the 5 unhealthiest foods, for example. And if you want to play on the drums better, you should know and avoid the typical mistakes. If the barrel doesn't hold water, then you first repair those slats with holes and those that are too short. You don't have to replace them all. And if you want to progress quickly on the instrument, you first train your weakest points. This is also the reason why you should take lessons from qualified teachers, even though you can learn a lot from videos these days. But a good teacher can see a problem at a glance that you would have not noticed, maybe even after years, and can help you improve your playing immediately and save you from frustration. From time to time I have students who only come to me for a single lesson precisely for this reason, as a checkup to identify problems and develop solution strategies so that they can then continue to work on their own. If you want to make such a checkup with me, maybe as an online lesson, feel free to send me a message using the contact form on my homepage. And now to the first typical mistake. And according to a small survey among my teaching colleagues, this is the most common one, namely taking the foot completely off the pedal between strokes. This can either look like playing a stroke and then putting your foot back on the ground, but I also see it very often that students of mine, for example, lift their leg completely, then hover over the pedal and either just tap it with their ankle or the whole leg and pull it up again. Or sometimes they even really kick the pedal. The problem here is that you're wasting a lot of energy and you are tense all the time. If you're already lifting your leg, you should use gravity and just let it fall again. This is a great way to transfer the energy to the pedal. You can generate much less energy from the ankle. And if you want to play like that, well, then you can just put your heel down anyway. And kicking the pedal also wastes a lot of energy, damages your joints and your equipment, and creates unwanted noise. Just let the foot rest on the pedal between hits and only raise it when you're winding up for a stroke. Because the wind-up is part of the stroke. So we don't stay in a kind of waiting position over the pedal. Because this has another disadvantage. You can transfer less power to the head. When you're on the pedal and then picking up momentum, the beater goes back past the starting point, tensioning the spring and giving you even more leverage. You don't have that if you fall onto the pedal from above. You would never play with your hands like that. And a guitarist doesn't wait like that over the strings and then just hits down, but winding up and striking down are one fluent movement. So between strokes, just let your foot rest on the pedal. The second mistake is being at an impractical distance from the drum set. If you sit too close, your ankle won't be able to move freely enough. If the angle in your knee is significantly larger than 100 degrees, then you will have a much harder time transferring the power to the pedal, especially heel up. Intuitively, you then kick forward, which is impractical and challenges your balance. So you have a chain reaction that makes it harder for you overall. Your lower leg should be roughly vertical. If you play more heel down, the angle in your knee can be a little more than 90 degrees, but not less. This only works if you play heel up. If you have the feeling that the snare drum is too close to you, then move it further away from you, because that is, by the way, also a common mistake. Most people have the snare drum too close. If possible, it can protrude a good distance over the bass drum, so that you can almost close your knees in front of it. And while we're on the subject of position, exactly where your foot is on the pedal is also very important. It seems sensible to place your foot on the footplate so that it completely covers it. But then we lose the leverage. I mean, you wouldn't grab the stick at the very tip either, not even in the middle, but at the ideal fulcrum. You would have to go far too big a distance and have poor leverage to transmit your power when you grab it here. It's similar on the pedal, but only applies if you're playing heel up. The best pivot point is different for every pedal, every playing style and every tempo, but it's definitely not at the top of the footboard. It is usually somewhere in the middle or further back on the pedal. Since the ball of your foot is the pressure point, your toes should be no more than 2/3 of the way forward on the footplate. Here you can transfer your power much more efficiently because you use the lever. At the front you have less power and you have to go all the way up and down, and that takes more time, so especially if you want to play faster, you should definitely be further back on the pedal. Find the sweet spot on your personal pedal and remember that it can change depending on the pedal's settings, seat height and tempo. Speaking of settings, this is my fourth tip. Many have problems with the foot technique because the pedals are not adjusted well. So very often not adjusted at all. Some of you may not want to fiddle with it for fear of breaking or setting something wrong, but you have to deal with it. You have to get things wrong sometimes. You have to feel how your pedal reacts when the angle of the footplate is really steep, when the spring is really tight or loose, and so on. There isn't a drummer who hasn't experienced this, that you try around for hours, think you found the perfect setting, but the next day it doesn't fit anymore and you keep looking. That's part of it. It's a learning process like anything else. In this way, you actively engage with your instrument and learn how to best work with it. Because you still have so many possibilities, even with cheap pedals, to positively influence your playing. You don't have to accept how the pedal behaves. You can do so much with just the beater angle and the spring tension, for example, so that the pedal works for you. You can adapt it to your playing style, and you must try something out and tinker around to get closer to your ideal setting bit by bit. But so that you don't have to start from scratch, I have summarized the basics of pedal adjustments again in the 8th part of the series, and the video also comes with a bonus PDF with a summary table of settings for different music genres and playing styles. With that, you are well prepared. One thing, however, I see so often that I would like to mention it again here. Namely, that the angle of the beater to the head is very small, sometimes 20 to 25 degrees or less. You can only transfer your power to the head when the beater hits with momentum. To do this, however, it has to travel a certain distance, just like with the sticks. Therefore, the angle between the head and the mallet should be at least 45 degrees. Watch some drummers you like. I bet you that none of them, except extreme metal drummers or those playing a direct drive pedal, have an angle smaller than 45 degrees. This is the only way you can transfer the power with the leverage effect. And if you want to play fast, you can just hold the beater close to the head and play fast strokes from your ankle. But if the ankle is 30 degrees or less, you can never make powerful strokes. And straight to the next tip. You can really only play powerful strokes from the whole leg with the heel up technique. Heel up and heel down are the two basic approaches to foot technique, but it's not about choosing one of the two for everything you play. You should master both and use them depending on the situation. This improves your pedal control and increases the dynamic range you can cover, meaning how softly and how loudly you can play. I see a lot of drummers playing heel down exclusively, and when they want to play loudly, they just use more force. Instead of squeezing out louder strokes from this position, use gravity and the weight of your entire leg. This way you can play even louder with less effort and you won't throw yourself off balance, which is also typical when trying to play heel down with even more tension. On a bike, you also don't just pedal faster, but switch into a higher gear. And just like that with the hands as well, you make a powerful stroke from the whole arm and soft ones from your wrist. So learn both techniques and use heel down for soft control strokes and heel up for anything louder. And finally, a very popular mistake is that you play with the wrong shoes. This can also mean without shoes. It seems obvious that you have a better sensitivity when you play barefoot. That's true, but on the one hand, it's often not always necessary, and on the other hand, shoes can even improve your playing. Some people take off their shoes at concerts, not because they play better that way, but because they are just used to it. If your drum kit is at home, you don't put on your shoes to practice. But you should if you wear shoes when you're playing a show. Always practice how you will play on stage. That's not to say that playing barefoot or in socks can't work for you, but you should consider whether you're really doing it consciously or just out of habit. So at some point I specifically chose shoes for playing drums and always put them on to practice, even when my set was still in my parents' basement, and I also took them with me on gigs. Because the other mistake is that you simply come to the lesson or concert in your usual outdoor shoes or even always in different ones. There are some who have found that they play best in combat boots. It can work, but I would generally recommend choosing light athletic shoes with not too thick soles so that you can move freely and have a good feel for the pedal. I use these V-Ratim drumming shoes. Definitely check them out, I can highly recommend them. By the way, if you like playing in socks because you slide a lot over the pedals when using double stroke technique or similar, then try shoes with leather soles that gives you even more freedom. Because I just love these shoes and I also want to have the same general feeling, I gave one of my pairs to a shoemaker and they got leather soles. On the other hand, if you play heavy and need good contact to transfer all of your power to the pedal, you need a sole that is a bit more sticky. Above all, it is important that the shoes are always the same or at least similar. There are 3 reasons for this. The first is that you always learn the technique in combination with the equipment. If the gear changes, you have to adapt again and again. That's why it's helpful to find the right stick for you and not to take completely different ones every time. Sure, you should be flexible and able to play with different sticks, and you should choose them depending on the situation. And you should try lots of different ones, but once you know what works for you, stick with it so that you can apply what you've learned always reliably. It's also a kind of psychological anchor. Do you know that feeling when you can't remember how a song goes, but as soon as you're on the instrument, it's right there again? This is because we always store things in context, and so certain circumstances trigger us. This way, the shoes signal to me, now it's time for making music. They are a help to me to get in the right mindset and to stay in it. And on tour, where everything is different every day, they give you a little bit of security and reliability. So I put on a bit of my comfort zone, so to speak. And this is why when you carefully look at live photos of me playing, you will see that I almost always play these shoes. And the third reason, if you take your shoes to lessons or leave them in the rehearsal room and only put them on at the drums, they stay clean and you protect your pedals from dirt and moisture. So especially in winter, my students are obligated to bring clean shoes. And finally, here's a bonus tip for you. A common mistake when practicing foot technique, just like with everything else, is practicing at random, without a plan. We learn most effectively through a target actual value comparison, which means that we set a concrete goal and approach it bit by bit, make our progress measurable and note it, for example, in a practice diary. Such a plan does not have to be elaborate, but the main thing is that you have one. Set yourself concrete goals and don't work on too many things at the same time. The best way to get ahead is to spend a certain amount of time on one topic to get better at it, rather than just trying everything. Effective, methodical practice is one of the biggest topics of this channel, and I also give workshops about it. So Follow me on my other social media channels where I will keep you up to date on current events. Well, I hope I was able to help you remove a few stumbling blocks with this video so that you can make quick progress with your foot technique. But of course, such a video never replaces that you continue to practice, sometimes make mistakes, exchange ideas with others, question assumptions, and thus learn more and more independently and improve yourself. That is my big goal with this channel, to make you independent learners and independent musicians. If you like this idea, please subscribe and also activate the notification bell so you don't miss a new video. If this one has helped you, please give it a like, because YouTube will then realize that this video is helpful and also suggest it to others as well. This is how you help me and others. Thank you very much. Now I wish you a lot of fun practicing. See you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.